What is it? Securosys 365 Double Key Encryption. It is the safe deposit box. 2 keys are needed to decrypt content for Microsoft stuff that's in OneDrive, that's in SharePoint Online, or in other containers. One key is ours, and the other key is the one of Microsoft. Files are decrypted and encrypted always outside devices. So it's client processing. So it's not with Azure, it's not with the Microsoft data center. And the content is not accessible without having both keys. So it's now an unbiased document encryption, an unbiased file encryption that has 2 parts. There are some limits. If you have your own key and you do your own encryption, apart from the Microsoft encryption, Microsoft can't do a few things, such as search indexing, malicious content checking, and streaming work in browsers. You won't have that. You have to work within the Microsoft Office products, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, etc. And there still is no co-authoring yet. So this is a topic. This is on the way. There is a beta right now, and it looks like working. We will have it soon back, I think. But there are a few things that are just not feasible, such as search indexing for now. So why then? So we have limits, we have advantage, and now we need to consider what's the balance. So we have usability, mobility, standardization, and security built into Microsoft 365. And we have additional security, or let's say additional privacy, out of Securosys 365 Double Key Encryption. And then we have the combination that makes this ultimately private. So no one can see whatever we double encrypt within Microsoft. So teaming productivity, governance, and cybersecurity with unprecedented privacy. That's about Securosys 365 Double Key Encryption. Business was about paper. Lots of businesses were about paper when you didn't produce any craft stuff or products to deliver. But service businesses were always about paper, and how to protect this paper was quite the next thing, because prying eyes were around all over. And I found several means like folders, file cabinets, vaults, deposit boxes with banks to put it. This was what you see on the right side, a bank deposit box where people in the bank had 1 key, and I myself had another key. So the principle is very old. And according to confidentiality, vulnerability provisions, and anticipated threats, we had to choose the place where we put things. And the most valuable things we brought to the bank. Now things have changed a bit, and we went digital. What happened to the paper? Doing business got more challenging, assets became difficult to store and were constantly growing. And they got digital. We have more data at incredible speed, more complex way of keeping, and it led to exhausted resources, actually. But data still is attractive to others. So we have to be aware of cybersecurity, of thieves, of more and more thieves with more and more or better resources and better methods, and they try to get our stuff. Having said that, we found the cloud makes things way more easy. So the uncomfortable complexity, the missing resources, the cloud operations model was better, cheaper, and more secure. So that's why many of us, or many people, are choosing cloud business models or the cloud operation models to get rid of their hardware and leaving behind the IT departments, its limited resources, and the IT management of things. The option of going to the cloud by closing contracts for predictable results and governance, if there's enough trust. And that's one of the main things right now. So sometimes it's not the way to go. For most people, that's fine. Use Microsoft 365 or Office 365 just the way it is. And other people, they hesitate or are not sure whether they can do that. So we had to find out a way to go and found encryption. If we have companies who effectively encrypt data to do more to protect their data than those who do everything else right, we think about encryption in this context. Introducing Microsoft 365 means checking security, flexibility, usability. We even have encryption doing the job for best practice privacy, and confidentiality, integrity, and availability is solved, basically. So how we do that? We don't do double key encryption with everything. First, I would say you have about, let's say 80% of the data. That's fine with residing in OneDrive for Business or SharePoint Online. Then you have another huge amount of data that's absolutely okay with applying just the normal information governance. You have to have it, just to mention that, but it's okay to have it basically. And then you have some kind of really valuable stuff where you add records management. You do that in a governance project when you find out what needs to be kept, what needs to be deleted, what are the legal or the business or the regulatory requirements for keeping this stuff within your storage. And if you have that, you're actually there. You went down the standard way for best practice, but there might be a hole. Some people say, now I have some crown jewels. I don't even know anybody, or I don't want even anybody to know that I have it. So what to do with these files? And you don't want to keep separate things. You don't want to have on-premise on one hand side and clouds or software as a service on the other hand side. You sure want to make it one piece. What if the bridge is not complete yet? This is about Securosys 365. There you can add Securosys 365 and encrypt these crown jewels within your data that's with Microsoft in the data center for SharePoint Online, OneDrive, or others, even locally works. Now we are there. So just keep in mind, we have several stages of how to make things private within Microsoft. The blue is open to Microsoft. You can do everything you like the service for. Search index, content checking, whatever you name it, your unlimited mobility, that's open. And then you have that red part, that's kind of extraterritorial environment for your data, where no one can see into without having two keys. This is basics so far, and I'd like to introduce you to how does it look like. we have been talking about some precautions to take first, but the user wants to have it simple. And that's what it is. It's as simple as that, as a click on a button. That's what you can see within Microsoft Information Protection labels. I have seen on the participant list that most of you might know these already, so I won't take too long for that. And what is an administrator doing? So what do we need to implement Securosys 365 double key encryption? Actually, it's a URL. If you did the job within the console of Securosys 365, which is shown on the lower left side in red, then you have 1 out of 9 forms in the Microsoft compliance console where you add that you will use double key encryption, and you add that URL. This is the root to the keys, the root to the HSMs, the root to the cloud HSM infrastructure where Microsoft compliance will find the keys. This is pretty simple. How is it done? One of the key aspects, it's client-oriented. So the software doing it is residing on the client. You have software that adds up to Microsoft Office apps, is connected to Microsoft data centers and Azure, where they will get the Microsoft keys to encrypt everything according to the Microsoft policies. If you don't trust Microsoft, prying eyes behind the keyhole, then you need Securosys 365 to encrypt that document, like now, the red lines you see, and that shuts down the possibility to look into the content. This is the front end, that what we have seen before with the Microsoft buttons to click in Word or Excel or PowerPoint.